way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go, show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed.
Amen.
Amen.
One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and he thanked him. He thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Has no one returned to give praise to God except this foreigner?" Then he said to him, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well."
Amen.
The word of God for the people of God.
Thank you.
Lydia Mariah Francis Child, born February the 11th, 1802, died October 20th, 1880, was an American abolitionist, women's rights activist, Native American rights activist, novelist, journalist, and poet. I guess you could say she was a woman ahead of her time.
Yeah.
People ahead of their time are often looked at as sort of oddballs, and their contributions are not always recognized or appreciated. What most people, though, today would know of Lydia Mariah Francis Child and her contributions to the world is a little children's song she wrote in 1844, and if you were like me, you learned it in elementary school and sang it this time of year, and I thought it appropriate for this morning, so if you know it, join me. Over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. The horse was away to carry the sleigh through white and drifted snow. Over the river and through the woods, so how the wind does blow. It stings the toes and bites the nose as over the ground we go. Now the challenge is the second verse, okay? Over the river and through the woods to have a first-rate play. Oh, hear the bells ring, ting-a-ling-ling, hooray for Thanksgiving Day. Hey, over the river and through the woods, trot fast my dapple gray. Spring over the ground like a hunting hound, for this is Thanksgiving Day. Now that poem harkens us back to a different era, when getting to Thanksgiving Day was a ride across fields and through the woods and over the river. And I wonder what sort of obstacles folks faced as they made that kind of journey. Maybe a family of beavers crossing their pathway, or a tree limb jamming up the blades of the sleigh. Did the kids fight in the back seat? Who had more room? Or who got to hold the slate tablet and box of chalk? Did the horse suddenly have a mind of its own and go off track? I wonder what it was like back then getting to Thanksgiving. Today, getting to Thanksgiving oftentimes involves long traffic backups on the highways or sleeping on the floor of an airport terminal because of widespread flight delays. Wednesday of this week has been for several years now the highest volume travel day of the year in America as folks are trying to get to Thanksgiving. It will be a day of intense frustration for many And some folks may just decide to give up and never get to Thanksgiving. If you're traveling, I pray you're safe on your journey. Some may ask, is it worth it? Trying to get to Thanksgiving, is it worth it? I wonder sometimes how much longer we're even going to have a Thanksgiving holiday. Oh, we might have a day that gears us up for a consumer orgy of spending, as Black Friday now seems to start about 3 minutes after noon on Thursday, right? And every year it bleeds over more and more into Thanksgiving. And certainly we're never going to give up our day off from work to watch football. But can we get to Thanksgiving? And is it important enough to us to make the effort? Can we get to Thanksgiving? How many will get to Thanksgiving? Well, the Bible gives us sort of a depressing statistic. 9 out of 10 will not get to Thanksgiving. Or, on the positive side, 1 out of 10 will get to Thanksgiving. Isn't that the statistic in our scripture this morning? Luke 17 records an account of 10 men who had infectious skin diseases, commonly translated as leprosy. And in the Israelite community, when a person discovered a rash or a skin disorder, he or she had to go to the priest for examination. The priest then determined whether this was a contagious disease and whether the person was to be declared ceremonially unclean. Look it up, Leviticus 13. I know y'all go home and read Leviticus quite often. Jewish law prohibited anyone with such a disease from associating with the general community. They had to be isolated, and many times they lived as outcasts until they died. This was necessary in order to keep infectious diseases from becoming an epidemic. But for those afflicted, it would be a life sentence. Jesus has healed several individuals who have leprosy or some type of infectious skin disease, as the Gospels record. And in Luke 17, 10 men who were part of a leper colony approached Jesus together while remaining at a distance as per the law. And they call out to Jesus, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And without seeming to do anything to heal them, Jesus merely gave the instruction to go show themselves to the priest. At the moment of Jesus' instruction, the men were still lepers. No physical change had yet taken place. But in faith, the men obeyed. And as they began to walk to the priest, they were healed. The Bible does not record how far they had walked before being healed. However, what the storyteller seems to want us to know and focus upon is that only one man, 1 out of the 10, returned to thank Jesus for the healing. Luke makes special mention of the fact that the one who returned was a Samaritan, a person despised by the law, despised by the Jews, I should say. Jesus expresses disappointment that the other 9 had not thought to give praise to God for their healing. Jesus is disappointed that 9 out of 10 did not get to Thanksgiving. I wonder what got in their way of making it to Thanksgiving after such a powerful gift of healing had come to them. Maybe they didn't think Thanksgiving was worth the effort. Once in a while I hear folks say, I'm not going to do Thanksgiving this year, it's too much work. Maybe they had too much on their schedule. Too many other things demanding their attention, other priorities taking precedence for them to take the time to find Jesus and express their thanks. Maybe they felt entitled to their healing. No reason to thank anybody. After what they had suffered and been through, about time they caught a break.
Okay.
Just look around, see all those freeloaders who get every advantage. It's about time somebody paid what's due to me. You ever heard folks talk like that? Maybe they didn't feel a need to thank anybody because they see themselves as only getting what they deserve or have earned by their own hard work or status in life.
Can't afford the dirt.
Maybe, even though their skin had cleared up, their hearts had not, and they're still bitter about the leprosy. And you can't get to Thanksgiving while you're bitter. It seems like acceptance and forgiveness is intricately tied to Thanksgiving, and it's necessary for getting. I wonder what got in their way of getting to Thanksgiving. Maybe even though they were healed of their leprosy, they were still worried about what was coming next. Could they possibly rebuild their lives? What was it going to take? What if life still didn't give them enough of what they felt they needed or wanted? Maybe they worried. And it's hard to get to Thanksgiving if you're stuck in your worries. Maybe healing wasn't everything they thought it would be. Maybe they're disappointed. Being sick was bad. Surely it was bad, but suddenly being well means taking on more responsibility in life, and that's scary. It's hard to get to Thanksgiving while being fearful. Remember how God's people in the wilderness, at least some of them, wished that they could go back to captivity? You see, the struggle for freedom was just too scary. Slavery in Egypt sounded a whole lot better to some than the uncertainty of a journey where every day was another step by faith, another step by faith, another step by faith, not knowing. 9 out of 10 did not make it to Thanksgiving, but one did. And he came back from being healed with his heart full of gratitude. I wonder what was different about him. The writer of the gospel makes sure we know that besides having been a leper outcast, this man was also a Samaritan outcast, a racial and religious outsider. You see, he had known his whole life, even long before leprosy, what it was like to be on the outside looking in. Now, maybe many of us don't know exactly what that's like. And ignorance sometimes keeps us from getting to Thanksgiving. But some of you know exactly what it's like to be on the outside looking in. So this one who came back to give thanks, awash in gratitude, did so because somebody finally believed in him enough to let him inside. Jesus did not exclude him from healing, but instead welcomed him as an equal, as a beloved child of God. And this 1 out of 10 realized that that's all he truly needed, to be loved as God's child. So, we come to the Lord's table this morning, and it's by invitation only. Except in this case, this table, the invitation is open and offered to all of humanity. Everybody is included. Everybody's an insider.
God bless.
And everybody, get this is the best part. It's a dinner you've been invited to for which everybody's already been paid for. Jesus has picked up the tab.
Thank you.
He has paid the bill.
Thank you, Jesus.
He does not require it, but he desires it. He simply wants to hear from us these words. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank God.
Thank you. In fact, in the meal that he shares with his disciples then, and all of us now, with the shadow of the cross hanging over his head, he himself stops to say thank you to the Father
Thank you, Father.
for the gift So, wherever you are this week, whatever your plans may be, maybe you don't have any plans, my hope is that we will all get to Thanksgiving. Prepare now our hearts, Lord, hearts overflowing with gratitude for your indescribable love. Prepare us now to receive those gifts you offer so freely, represented by the bread in your broken body and the cup in your shed blood, the very gift of our salvation.